Before we get started today, I was going to ask you all to just indulge me in a quick activity. It's light, don't worry. Just wanted to get a sense of what you've learned so far on through the last 3 days of the training. This could be something small, a big piece of information, something profound, or maybe even something that reminded you of other information that you already had. So let's just take a quick moment to just share what you've taken away over the last 3 days. And you can do this through the chat or unmuting yourself. So yeah, what takeaways do you all have? Yeah, definitely, Robert. Yeah, in the chat, it's been good to connect with folks. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely agree, Ashley. Relationships first. Excellent.
This is Michelle. Can I say something?
Absolutely, Michelle. Go ahead.
I am super pumped. This has given me such a bigger and better idea of how to actually work with farm to school and producers. I am overjoyed and very thankful for all the time and effort that everyone took and the incredible detail. I feel empowered.
Excellent. We love to hear that. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing.
Thank you.
Great. Well, if there's any other takeaways that you'd like to share, feel free to just chime in through the chat. We'll definitely have some more space in the day to open it up to you all for Q&A. But for now, we're actually going to get going with the day. Today is going to be all about bringing together all of the pieces that you've been working on over the past 3 days. So we're going to start today with a virtual site visit to learn more from a producer about their farm to school sales. After that, we'll be digging into the planning and outreach tools. And then to wrap things up, you're going to have some more time with your state teams to brainstorm and think about planning, outreach, and then further implementations of the trainer action plan. So let's get started with today. I'm going to hand it over to Tammy to facilitate the virtual site visit. Take it away, Tammy.
Thanks, Tomas. And thanks everybody for sticking with us for these 4 days. It has been a lot of material and I hope we didn't fire hose you too much, but we really appreciate your participation and your time because we know you're all very busy and but I've really enjoyed the collaborations that I've been able to find out about in the Arizona breakout group. So yes, thank you. So we are really excited for our site visit today. We have Joseph Martinez joining us from Arizona Microgreens, and he is going to tell us a little bit about his operation, and then we're going to see a few short videos, and then we're going to have some Q&A just between us and then open it up to the group. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and Arizona Microgreens and how it got started, Joseph?
Cool. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation to participate. Arizona Microgreens got started about 7 years ago, and we started out wholly focused on providing kind of specialty produce, we'll say, to local area restaurants. That was our focus completely. And I never thought much about farm to school, to be honest. So when I went to school, I don't remember as a kid ever seeing any sort of efforts to engage with more, fresh produce in the school lunch program. So I was just ignorant of it. And I just assumed that as a local farm, the only real opportunity to us would be restaurants and then perhaps retail at some point. So that was kind of how we developed as a company, just focused on servicing restaurants. It just so happens that we are actually leasing. Oh, okay, there we go. We're actually leasing a facility that is owned by a school district. So of course, we just want to be great partners there. And we started doing educational activities with them. And then when I connected with the food service director, he told me about this FFVP, this opportunity that we could actually get our produce into schools. So that really opened up my eyes to that possibility. So microgreens are basically just tiny little leafy greens, Like this morning I was at a cafe and I saw them on top of like an avocado toast. It's a little bit of like a precious thing, you know what I mean? Like we're not gonna get microgreens in school lunches or free and reduced breakfast programs. It's not gonna happen. But you're going to see them in kind of fine dining restaurants, farm to table restaurants, this kind of environment. It's just like broccoli, but we only grow it to seedling stage, or arugula or cabbage or dill, a lot of familiar vegetables and herbs. And they're used primarily as a garnish or a way to kind of bring in a lot of intense, unique flavor. So I love them. I love microgreens. Today, Arizona Microgreens, we're active at a couple farmers markets throughout the state. We do in fact do retail, and I'm, honestly, like my favorite thing that we do is the school program, which for us is just limited to FFVP. I think we had a brief moment where we're like in the DoD fresh catalog, but I haven't actually seen any movement in there. But we do participate in FFVP. So for us, that's an opportunity where a farm, and I think that's mostly what we'll discuss, is I would say we're a farm that we just assumed we had no opportunity to engage with schools, but then the opportunity kind of came, and it's FFVP, and it's amazing. It's really meaningful in terms of revenue, in terms of production, in terms of engagement, and I'm pumped. Am I leaving anything out? We're a greenhouse farm. We're located in the city.
Yeah, I think that's a good introduction, Joseph. And then
you'll see the video.
They will show the video, and then I have two videos. I'm going to do that cultivating change video, which really just introduces your greenhouse, but not the whole video where you talk about the cultivating change grant. And then I'm going to show the FFVP video, but I'm just going to warn folks, the sound quality is not great on the second video we're going to watch. So you might want to just turn it up or turn your headphones up or whatever. And then we'll do some Q&A. So sounds good? Okay, I also need to stop my video because I'm not sure my internet quality is great. So I'm going to stop my video and share my screen, and we'll take it away.
So when we started out, like a lot of small farms, we were just kind of dabbling, growing this, growing that. And then we had some chefs tell us what we need are microgreens. No one's growing microgreens like we need them. So we had this excellent opportunity where someone told us exactly what the market needed and to exactly what specification, and we went and did that. And now we focus on just that entirely. So microgreens are just little seedlings of vegetable plants. So what we do is we take vegetable seed, we plant that in organic soil, we grow it in a greenhouse for about 1 to 2 weeks, and then we harvest it at that point. They're not only really delicious, but they're also very nutrient dense. When we started out, we thought microgreens were just that kind of high-end garnish. And they are that. However, it's been really fun actually working with produce distributors like Stern who say, actually, you know what? We could use those microgreens in this farm to school program. Or there's actually Phoenix Children's Hospital. Yeah, they could use the microgreens there because of the nutritional aspects of them. Or we've also got this health conscious restaurant. They're developing a new salad. Why don't we put them as part of that salad? And it's just been really cool to see our product is no longer exclusively at the finest fine dining restaurants. I mean, it's the whole spectrum. So.
All right, that's the first one. And this is Joseph's talking about the microgreens and farm to school through the fresh fruit and vegetable program.
Basically tiny little herbs and vegetables. One of the most exciting things that we get to do is participate in farm to school.
I'm starting this over. Sorry, guys. Okay.
My name is Joseph Martinez. I'm with Arizona Microgreens. At Arizona Microgreens, we grow microgreens, which are basically tiny little herbs and vegetables. One of the most exciting things that we get to do is participate in the Farm to School Fruits and Vegetables program, or FFVP. Basically, different schools get funding to order specialist snacks. We've seen schools that bring in watermelon radishes, and rambutans, and dragon fruit, and recently, microgreens. It's great that we can expose kids to things that are grown in tropical countries, but I think it's also important that we expose kids to really interesting things that are grown here in Phoenix. So microgreens are fantastic for a lot of reasons. The really cool thing about this is a sugar snap pea shoot, and it doesn't look like a sugar snap pea, but it tastes like one, and it's kind of like mind-blowing for little kids. So farm to school programs often are not just kids eating the freshest, most kind of local, delicious stuff they can get. A lot of times they also get some interesting education and stories and backgrounds about what that stuff is that they're eating. And we found that kids are actually really excited about that. They love learning about it. My hope is that more schools will participate in this program.
Okay, hold on. I gotta find my mouse.
I can see clearly now.
Oops, we got all sorts of stuff going on. Okay. All right. So, thanks for sharing those videos, Joseph. And I was wondering if folks have any just quick questions before we do some Q&A. Feel free to unmute yourself or put something in the chat. All right. Well, not hearing or seeing anything. I was wondering, Joseph, if you could tell us when you started to sell to schools through that fresh fruit and vegetable program, and what were those initial steps that you took to get involved with the FFVP?
Yeah. So like I was saying, and like the video indicates, we were not set up to engage with schools. So it was the food service director. Can you hear me okay? Is my audio?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
It was a food service director in the school district that our greenhouse is located in. And this is one of those guys. He's like a huge champion of just like child nutrition services across the board. Awesome guy. I mean, he's giving me tours of the schools and just so cool. The way he's super energetic, the way he engages with the people working in the warehouse, in the kitchens, the students. This guy's great. So of course, when he interacted with a local farmer, he brought that same energy. And I recognize that that's very exceptional. And I'm really grateful that we connected with someone like that, who, when I was like, I shrugged it off. I said, well, it's great that we're here and we can do tours for the students and maybe I can produce some videos, but unfortunately, I just don't think there's any way that we can get our food into the schools. Well, we're too expensive. And he said, no, I don't think that's true. I think we can find a way. So I think that's the kind of like my first thing is I think it takes people who have that attitude, who they're like, okay, if expense is the problem, let's see if can you consider your less expensive items in a different pack size? Is there a way we can address that? Or if my concern was distribution or relationships with distributors, I think it really takes people who are determined and they say, we've got tons of, whether they're grant programs or special purchasing agreement programs, like there is a way, let me figure this out. And honestly, it wasn't that complicated. I'd say that we honestly probably talked about it for maybe 20 minutes. And he was like, show me your package. I showed him the package. He said, we really like it when each kid can get an individual item. Is that going to be possible? I said, no way. He goes, okay, next best thing. We're going to break it into small classroom, large classroom. Could you do that? Could you do these less expensive items in 2 different pack sizes? I said, yeah, I can do that. He said, great. So we figured out a serving size per student. We figured out a range of our products that are appropriate. Like I'm not sending edible flowers into the classroom, but actually sunflower greens, really, really successful for the kids. And so we figured out different pack sizes. And then the next step that he threw in my court is he said, I want you to figure out the coolest educational opportunities associated with these. He said, we don't know microgreens, but I want you to tell me, like, can we talk about plant life cycles? Can we talk about photosynthesis? Can we talk about human nutrition? Can we talk about protein? Like, what are the educational things that could come along with this? So that was it. It was pretty much like a 20-minute exchange, pack sizes, different products. And then he said, can you think about educational opportunities? We looped back around and we made it happen. So we were first just in one school district. And then, do you want me to stop? Do you want to?
No, keep on going on.
So
yeah.
we did the first distribution, and he actually, this was funny. We did the first distribution, and he was like, "Okay, Joseph, Tuesday's the day, and you're gonna come down, and FFVP snack happens at this hour." And I'm going to have you hit up all of these classrooms on this one building. You're going to go in, you're going to do a 3-minute hello, you're going to go next door, and you have to do as many as possible. And I loved it. It was amazing. But afterward, I was like, his name is Rick. I said, Rick, that was incredible. We got to do it again. And he said, yeah, but we got to scale this up. You can't just hit up 6 classrooms. So it was actually Rick's idea. He said, let's do this. For each type, each variety that you do, I want you to make a video in your greenhouse. And I want you to show us the life cycle of this plant, of a sunflower plant, and why they're edible at this young stage. I want you to explain that. With pea shoot, we do this great thing where we do green and golden pea shoot. The golden ones are grown in the dark so they don't turn green. So we can talk about photosynthesis. It's the same thing. He's like, I don't want you to just present to 6 classrooms. I want a 3-minute or less video, and we're going to show it in every classroom in the district that's getting FFVP. So he was a real champion. That's great. But also what he did was honestly not that complicated. And I think that everyone on this call can take that energy and take that focus back into their kind of local regional area and hopefully onboard some farms like us who were kind of apprehensive and didn't think there was an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because when he wanted you to make it, bigger and do more, were you thinking, wow, do I have to add more to the price point to make it, pencil out for me? Or it sounds like a video would probably take about the same amount of time as visiting those classrooms. Did you have those kind of thoughts in your head, and how did you reconcile that?
Yeah, so 2 points here. So one was about production capacity and kind of profitability. To be honest, we might be unique in this, in that we produce to order. So the vast majority of farms, they're pumping out tons of apples, and then some schools are going to snag them. So I can't speak to that dynamic, but I can tell you for us, because it's so exceptional, to be selling like 300 units of micro broccoli, restaurants use almost none. We have this process built in where schools need to place their order 2 weeks in advance. I don't think that's unreasonable, because a lot of districts will plan their menu the month prior, at least. In a best case scenario, the reality is a lot of people do operate very last minute, and the 2 week lead time thing has led to a lot of districts just not working with us because they're just honestly not planning out. They're doing everything the week of or the week before. So unfortunately, we lose those opportunities. We have to work with people who plan out. So when we do, those people are placing an order, it's a big order, and we're growing exactly for that order. So because there's no loss, it turns out to, now we offer it at a lower price point, but there turns out to be no wasted labor, no wasted packaging, no wasted anything. So we make up for it, and it becomes basically level with just how we need to be operating to be profitable as a farm. So we've never lost money on it. They never cancel orders or back out. And we have noticed. So no, from a profitability perspective, we love it. We have, yes, had some times where we had to add capacity. Honestly, one night, my brother and I we had to build out a massive dark chamber, and we were in the greenhouse until like 10 p.m. It was ultra miserable, but we're super committed to FFPP. Our dad was a teacher. My mom worked in public schools for a long time, and we're really committed. So adding the capacity has been something that's joyous for us. Maybe we're the exception in that. That's the capacity, profitability. The other question you had was about making videos.
Oh, yeah. And actually, we do have a question from Danielle Anderson. I know she's actually in Arizona too, and she was just wondering.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was just wondering, was that made specifically for that school district, or was it or is it available to other districts,
Totally.
or is it just
Yeah.
a contract between Arizona Microgreens and the district that you were working with?
Great question. So what happened is this guy said, "Oh, make a video." The first video we made, I specifically referenced Roosevelt School District in the video. I was like, "Hey, kids, we're also located here in Roosevelt School." Blah, blah, blah. And the feedback he gave me, he said, "Yeah, don't do that going forward, because what you guys are doing, there's no reason we can't offer that to Levine, or you can't." He wouldn't try to take ownership over it. He was like, "This is your guys' farm. I want you to be successful. I want you to reach out to Levine and Washington Elementary and Alhambra and all of them." So that was his suggestion. And they're just on YouTube. Yeah. So yeah, they're just on YouTube. They were on TeacherTube because I think there was one district that was like, we're not authorized to use YouTube in the classroom, whatever, parental control things. So we did upload a couple to this platform called TeacherTube, which is actually like way worse than YouTube. But they're not part of a contract. We were not paid to produce them, or there's no income
specifically for that district or for the.
That's right, not specific. And I think it's a thing that I think a lot of farms be capable of. I mean, honestly, you can just take a photo on your cell phone. It doesn't need to be high production value. You can just be like, "Hey, I'm Farmer Susan. Check it out. These are fields of broccoli." It could be 30 seconds, but it's fun. It's something different for the kids.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, and we also had like a follow-up question from Raven, who's also on the Arizona team. Go Arizona. She was curious she said it's a perfect package to scale up for the fresh fruit and vegetable program this year, purchasing microgreens plus pre-prepared videos. And she's curious about who's experienced them so far. Raven, do you mean the videos or the microgreens or both?
Yeah, I think that my question was answered a little bit. Joseph, you said that they were shown to Roosevelt School District specifically, but I was curious about if they've been shared with any other districts. And my follow-up question is kind of about transportation capacity, because I can see this being, like I said, a perfect package for FFVP schools this year, but not all of them are going to be as close to your facility as Roosevelt likely was.
Yeah. So great questions. It is a very nice package. Our workflow is that we reach out to produce distributors and we ask them, hey, so what's your business look like this year? Do you have the school districts, or did you lose those contracts? Because each year it kind of changes in Arizona. I don't know what it's like in different markets, but in Arizona, it seems to be that there's like 3 dominant produce distributors who even try to go after school business. Maybe I'm off there, but about 3 that we could potentially work with. So we reach out to them and we say, hey, what's going on? And they'll be like, okay, we've got a bunch of school contracts this year, or we lost them all. And then we present to them our program. Unfortunately, really high turnover at both the produce distributors and the school district. So we kind of have to redo the whole thing each year. So again, I would advise anyone who's thinking about engaging with a farm to try to package their FFVP everything in the most like neat, convenient, concise way, because you'll likely have to put a little bit of work in evangelizing it at the beginning of every school season. You probably will. So that's where we're at. We'll reach out to produce distributors and we'll reach out to schools, because honestly, produce distributors are not incentivized to promote local over anything else. For them, a sale is a sale. They're going to make their percentage. It's in their interest to just work with a food producer who's just not going to short them. That seems to be, at least in Arizona, all they really care about. I'm not trying to be too cynical, but you know what I mean? They don't make more money in working with me. If they're selling peaches, that's just as fine. So I have to get out there and I have to say, hey, look, I've got these nice videos. We've done this in the past with multiple school districts. We have 100% successful fulfillment rate. Please, could you advocate this as an option? That's it. That's all my sell. It's not a hard sell. It's just letting people know microgreens are an option. And that's it. And then we kind of go from there. And certain school districts, no, never. They're never going to do it. They hate it. And that's fine. And then other school districts, they're going to do it year after year. At this point, we probably work with like 8 or 9 consistently every year. And then they range from school districts that get awarded like 13, 14, 15 school sites to small, tiny districts that only have 1 school. Does that answer? So I went on there for a bit, but I hope that answers.
I think so. So just to clarify, you essentially connect with producers that are contracted with schools and they take care of the delivery.
Oh my gosh. Raven asked like a really concise question. She's like, yes or no. And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Yes.
I answer questions the same way, so no worries at all. Still great information.
We do not distribute a thing. So again, that is probably going to vary. You're going to have certain farms that they handle all their distribution. We don't. We work through produce distributors. My thinking on that, and I could be totally wrong, my thinking on that is that the distributors have the relationships with the school. So theoretically, I should make the pitch to the distributor. The distributor should turn around and then present that in a suite of options to all their schools. The distributor should have someone at their company who says, hey, look, we'll help plan out, we'll help all your efforts with FFVP. I'm going to roll out the carpet here. We're going to give you the best, most successful, coolest things that kids love, and they make great impact. That doesn't really happen, but that's my idea. And the way we run our business, we're we're doing like 70% of our revenue through produce distributors anyway. So as a farm, I'm very careful. I don't want to be undercutting that relationship. So that's why even though we could do a lot of our own distribution to all these school districts, because we're centrally located, we choose to involve the produce distributor.
I was
It wasn't concise.
that was good. And it also brought up another question. So was that initial connection, I forget the guy's name, Rich from
Paul.
Oh, Rick Hall. Yeah. Was that a direct to school sale, or you sold through the distributor for that as well?
Through the distributor. He's got more of like a business background, and he kind of was savvy to that. He's like, I want you to do this through the distributor, Joseph, because if it's a success, I can call my person there and say, hey, we just did these microgreens. They knocked it out of the park. They got a great video. Kids love it. And kids cannot get microgreens anywhere, period. So this is perfect for FFVP. It's unique. It's nutrient dense. There's great education. And it's locally grown. So, and Rick knows, he's been around. So he knows people at Washington. So he was thinking, do it through the distributor and then it'll be scalable. You'll be able to get out to Bullhead City. You'll be able to get out to Tucson and Yuma, places that might be outside of your reach. So I have to really give a lot of credit to Rick Hall.
Yeah, sounds like he was really instrumental in kind of paving.
And he was thinking about the scalability. And I think that's something that I have to continue to bring myself back to, and maybe other people on the call relate to this, is sometimes we we want to have that personable relationship. That's how I really privilege that kind of individual, personal one-on-one, that I lose sight of how can I set this up in a way that we can next year do it 3 times or 10 times as big. So Rick helped kind of keep me on that path. He's like, yeah, Joseph, I'm a nice guy, but don't mention me by name in the video. Keep it generic and we'll scale it up throughout the state of Arizona. So I think it's a balance, right, of being personable, but also trying to encourage a farm to do something that could actually have bigger impact. Because ultimately we want many farms to many schools, not just like one cool farmer who's just with it,
Yeah, and Margot, my colleague at NCAT, said that you were doing the perfect values pitch, because we just talked about values pitches yesterday. So awesome.
Oh, great.
Okay. Yes. So my next question is, so what is something you would wish that you'd known before you were starting to sell to schools that you'd like to share with the trainers on this call, or have trainers know to share with producers?
I wish I knew the thing that we didn't that I honestly didn't do for another year or two was actually to learn about how the FFVP is actually administered. So I was basically doing all of this just like me, and then my produce distributor, who really didn't care. Again, like this guy, he can sell peaches or mangoes or apples, makes no difference. It's just another pallet. And the school districts, and the person that I wasn't looping in was the FFVP coordinator at the Department of Education. So I think what I would say as a workflow is, if you're with an organization and you might be that person, or you might be with another agency, is I would reach out to them and just kind of see where they're at, what programs they're already developing. And there might be a way to plug that farmer or that produce cooperative into that. They're going to have a statewide perspective. They're going to know what's going on. And it took me 2 years to finally meet that person. That was kind of silly. Does that answer the question? I wish I would have known that.
Yeah.
There's someone who that's literally their job. And when I met them, they were like, yo, nice to meet you. Yeah, we can do great things.
Did it help like facilitate more sales or anything? Or it's just another, because we keep talking about in this training program a lot about relationship building and how important that piece is, especially like in the direct to school sales. But it sounds like it was even important for you with going through a distributor.
So they have limitations, of course, like because they're a state employee, they can't necessarily like get Mesa Public Schools on the phone and say, hey, look, you're going to give them the contract, okay? Like that's they can't do that. But what they can do is, or I don't know, it might change on a year-to-year basis, but they were able to tell me basically all of the districts and that was a public document. I don't know why 2021, 22, they didn't release it in Arizona. But they used to release a document that showed all the schools that were getting FFVP. And that allowed us to basically prioritize and say, okay, we're going to make a pitch to A, B, and C districts and just be methodical. We could figure out who their distributors were. So that person, in a kind of hands-off way, was able to help us figure out where to channel our resources. Prior to that, I would just send emails to my produce distributor and basically never hear back. Because again, they weren't incentivized. So the FFVP coordinator was like, for better or worse, this is all about passionate people. They make things happen in this market. So instead of trying to reach through your produce distributor who doesn't care, I can tell you that there currently are people working at this district, and this district who are passionate about local education. They care. So they said, you probably could, they just did a gentle kind of push. And of course, but ultimately they can't force anything. So it's up to the district. Is it a good fit? No. Cool. But they had that overview, and I think they were able to really, so again, if you were going to encourage a cooperative or a farmer to get involved, I think you would want to reach out to that FFVP coordinator, and they could give you the pulse of kind of, or maybe they have a different plan. Like last 2 years, the Arizona FFVP coordinator was doing these webinars. Oh, Raven, there you go.
Perfect timing.
So Raven,
talking about the Farmer Spotlight webinars. Yeah.
I don't know if do you want to say anything about that more?
Yeah, that would be a great model to share, Raven, if you're willing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to work with you, Joseph, just because cool. I'm just getting my feet wet in this role. But yeah, like pretty much when I started, I jumped right into helping to facilitate these Farmer Spotlight webinars. And so exactly what you brought up, there's a little bit of a careful line with conflict of interest to walk when you're trying to connect local producers with school contracts. And so the middle ground they kind of came to were these Farmer Spotlight webinars, which allows for farmers to do essentially be a guest speaker at an existing FFVP training, kind of talk about their operation, what they have to offer schools, and essentially give their values pitch. And then it leaves it up to those FFVP operators, those schools, to decide if they would like to establish those contracts. So it just kind of creates a space for those relationships to form. And it's also nice because we did them in webinars, so we were able to share them to those that weren't able to attend. So it was like a nice little packaged video that could be shared ideally across years, like cohorts of FFVP operators.
I'd say it also provided an important context where, sometimes you make your pitch and they just have their knee-jerk reaction. Like for us, the two big hangups are that you have to put in your order 2 weeks in advance. And then the second one is that we'll actually send one box to the classroom. So you have to have the teacher actually kind of portion it out to the kids. So for some people, they're just like, ugh, too complicated. I don't want to do it. But when we're in that webinar context, someone who has already done it microgreens before, they're able to chime in and say, oh, guys, the portioning out thing, it's so easy. The teacher does it while the video is going on. It's not a hassle. It's doable. So it provides an opportunity, I think, for farmers who might have not like the smoothest, I don't know, whatever. There's a dialogue there. And that I think has led to more actual people kind of not taking a chance on us, but kind of seeing, oh, this is doable, this is feasible. And then other, people are on the call and they're just like, are you kidding me? You don't plan out your menu a month in advance? Come on, get with it. So they're able to work through that one too.
So I want to give other folks an opportunity to ask questions. Please feel free. It's great to hear your voices, so I'd love it if you took yourself off mute to ask questions.
I would be curious, sorry to put it out there, because I really do think that the Farmer Spotlight, I don't know who started it at Arizona Department of Education or if other areas are doing it, but I do think that is an excellent program that really ought to exist in each state. It's such an easy way to, you're like, okay, but how am I going to do this? How am I going to connect a farm to this? And you could simply invite people to present or invite a farm to just get on the call and watch it. And I really think that if your state isn't doing something like this, it would be awesome if they could. And then maybe that's something that Raven and this session or subsequent sessions or through follow-up could share a little bit more about what resources are required to make that happen. I think that's probably the most concrete, rather than what I can offer, that's probably like the most concrete, realistic and scalable thing that I really think should exist in each market.
What about other states that are on the call, represented on the call? Do you all do some farmer spotlight videos or meet and greet sessions? Because I kind of see that being something similar, but of course takes more time on the part of all parties.
I can chime in for Utah. We don't do a video, but we do farmer spotlights on our farmer school social media to highlight producers. And then we also, we are, I think, a little bit unique in this particular region in that we usually end up with a lot of extra FFVP funds. So what we do is that we actually have this category that we call our VIP awards, but schools can apply for, and then they get more funding per student. But one of those awards is for spending their money on local produce. So if a school is going to spend a higher percentage of the grant where local produce, they can apply for that. And then we give them the full like $75 per student that they can have.
Can I ask, I didn't hear the first part of your comment. You said in Utah, you end up with extra FFVP funds or you end up with not enough? I didn't catch that.
We end up with extra. We have a lot of trouble spending our money, and so that's one of the things we've been doing. Is some of our schools do an amazing job, so we want to incentivize them and give them some of that leftover funding that way.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Rick Hall pointed out to me. He said, no way are we going to get microgreens in the salad station at a school or whatever on top of the food. But he said FFVP, there is money left over. And actually, rather than just burning through this cash on dragon fruit or something that we don't care about, he said we might be able to purchase something on the slightly more expensive side. But then actually when we got the program kind of going, Rick said on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being insanely expensive, 1 being the cheap stuff, he said your microgreens are like a 7. So we're not like far off the charts. But again, I think he saw FFVP is a possible opportunity to bring in a local farm that their first thing is going to be like, sorry, our price point is not going to work, you know? So I don't think it's wasted money. I really don't think that they're wasting money at all, but it's an opportunity where maybe we get our rainbow carrots from the local producer. Yes, throughout the rest of the year, we have to financially, we got to get the carrots from Mexico or whatever.
Yeah, that was, I have been doing some case studies for this project, and that was one like piece of advice that our friend at Cattail Organics said. She said, don't think that you're going to get all, like every single product that you sell, you know, and every single product that is being fed to students is going to be all from local produce, because it's just too difficult with limited budgets. But think of those things that just work well for your operation, and your cash flow and your price point, and those are the products you want to try to get into schools. So, do you have any advice to share, like with fellow producers about? You have shared a lot about like making that sales through distributors, but any advice or things that you think could be improved to help you make that sale?
Well, I think the webinar is a great platform because it allows for some sort of empathy to develop. And me as a producer, I'm not just thinking like, what are my needs? I can hear about what are the needs of, how does a child nutrition service director or their FFVP, the person in that role, how do they think about this program? So that sounds really like woo woo, but I think it does come down to developing some sort of empathy for what is the other person's challenge, you know, and can I actually meet them where they're at? So through those webinars, because they're more of a back and forth and not just like you know, it's like this, like you guys can ask me questions. You can be like
it's a conversation.
It's a great format. So when I hear that, and I can straight up ask them, like I said, what are you guys' challenge? Honestly, you know what? One of the weird challenges are they run out of ideas. Straight up. It's like they have to do all these damn snacks and they can't just keep doing like carrots and celery every week. So, you know, and then some person's like, oh, well, we do the alpha. I think one more, she was like, we do the alphabet, we do asparagus, and then we do broccoli. And she's like, do you have like a letter, like an H? I'm having trouble with H.
Like, what's this?
I'm like, one, the alphabet thing is ridiculous. Why do you do alphabet? And she's like, because it's so hard to, you know, keep coming up with stuff. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't do alphabet. I mean, someone just commented here about seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't do alphabet because the alphabet is not, I don't know if you've noticed, there's nothing seasonal about the alphabet. I think it's a terrible platform, but I could at least hear about it. Not platform, terrible approach. But I could hear, I said, well, what's her challenge is that she doesn't have enough options. She doesn't have enough ideas. So, so what I wish is that there was a produce distributor on the call who would realize that and could help bring on more items to offer. So that's an opportunity for microgreens to plug in there. And that's an opportunity for me to go, oh, shoot, I shouldn't just try to pitch 2 microgreen options. Maybe I'll actually expand that to 4. And that was welcomed. So I don't know if I'm being clear in that, but I really think that you got to get these people at the table and you got to host a conversation so that people can say, okay, what is your constraint? What is your challenge? And the farmer's going to think, oh, they're all money focused. They want the cheap stuff. No one talks about money. They want more options.
Yeah, that has been a myth busting thing that has emerged from this project, because there's lots of committed folks that it's not all about the cheap product. But I did want to mention, Crystal, I don't know if you want to just talk about your Harvest of the Month program, because that is another way that people feature foods through the fresh fruit and vegetable program. And we have one in Montana. I know there's handfuls of Harvest of the Month programs throughout the country, and then that you feature a different product that is grown within the state for every month. And so Arizona microgreens could be one of those for one of the months. So
we're easy because we're essentially in operation. We are in operation the entire school year. There's no seasonality aspect, so we don't contribute in that regard in terms of seasonal produce. But in another sense, we do, because we can talk about how when you grow in a greenhouse or you grow in, a controlled environment, you can actually adjust for these sort of things. So when we think about local,
and it's year round.
Yeah, and seasonal, we're thinking about items like strawberries that will come to peak at a certain time. But another factor of that is the way that farmers have used technology to grow spinach for more than just a 2-month period. They extend it. So that's part of it. And so we educate about that.
That's cool. Yeah. Any other last minute questions? We're about at our time limit, but I want to see if anybody else has some last questions or thoughts or comments for Joseph. Oh, and Lacey, thank you for reminding folks that Joseph is also featured in our case studies in a podcast. So you can check it out on the link that she just placed in the chat.
Yeah, I think I'll just say one more thing. It might be one other component that I think we got to think about when we think about FFVP is just being realistic and how much turnover there is in this. Okay, great. So I'll just answer Sarah Lane's question. What do you hope to expand operations and work with more schools, or what do you have on the horizon? Yes. So we did nothing for the last school year because of COVID. Zero. No one reached out to us. Nothing happened. So great. So first off, we hope to re-engage with FFVP, but we're going to have to rebuild all those relationships. I'm assuming that probably half or more of those people are no longer in that position. So we operate as a local, like a statewide farm. That's all we're thinking about. We're not thinking about expanding beyond that. So we just want to year have a stellar relationship with the school nutrition service directors in each district that would potentially engage with FFVP. And we want to be able to concisely and articulately just expose them or tell them that microgreens are an option. And then hopefully a number of them will say, yeah, let's do it. Let's see how that works. So we're not super aggressive, but I know that we've seen it be successful. So I think that we can definitely engage with more school districts, especially the ones further than the Phoenix metro area. We tend to be most successful with the ones like right in our backyard. Mm-hmm. And I want to see this stuff go further to other parts of the state. And we have the capacity. We could absolutely do it.
That's really great. Sarah, thanks so much for asking that question, because this is also kind of like a goals-based training program. So that was like the perfect outline of like your goals and next steps. So yeah, thumbs up. And then you were gonna say like one more like closing remark.
Me?
Yeah, I thought you said
I just want to say really just get a little sappy and just be like, you guys are like my heroes. I wish there were more people in this world who just cared, and that's it. And I think that what we have to do is nurture the space of people just caring. And you guys, I don't know how you're not in super Zoom fatigue like I am, and I work in a greenhouse, but like, it's so abundantly clear to me that the only reason things like this happen is that there's a couple of key players. We build out these programs, but look, money just gets left on the table. That's crazy. Literally just like thousands and thousands of dollars unspent. Why? Because no one cared, So it's amazing to hear there are people in Utah who are like, whoa. Let's develop a little thing here, a little spotlight, and let's push this. Let's be more ambitious. Let's make cool things happen. And I love it that you guys are willing to give up multiple days to hang out on Zoom for 4 or 5 hours, because what I see is that you are nurturing that kind of, this is important, and let's do this work. And it's awesome. I'm so grateful. I know that the people who were trying to farm locally before me, they had to like, they were like activists basically. And me, I go somewhere and everyone already knows the value of local food where I show up. They're like, yeah, we know. We've just been waiting for you to come. We want to use your stuff in our restaurant. We want to use your stuff in our hospital, in our school. So you guys and the people before you, you're really doing the hard work of laying that foundation. And you've made it so much easier for me to farm and grow food locally. And that's super, super appreciated. So thanks for all that you do, and thanks for all that you Zoom.
Yeah, the Zoom fatigue is real for sure.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule to give us this virtual site visit. And and it sounds like there's been some great connections made. I think Raven's probably going to be in touch with you, it seems like, to kind of facilitate some of those reconnecting with school. With that, we'll bid you adieu, and thank you very much, Joseph.
Farewell. Bye, guys.
Bye. All right, folks, I think next up is just a quick break.
All right, welcome back, folks. Hope you got a nice little break in. Thanks so much to Tammy for facilitating that great conversation this morning. We are moving right along. We have another special guest with us for this next segment. We're going to be discussing an important, very important for us, as well as hopefully for you as you implement these trainings, part of the work around evaluating these trainings. Lydia Oberholzer is with us. She is with NYU, our evaluation partners on the project. We heard from her colleague Carolyn earlier this week, and she is joining us live today to talk about what evaluation looks like and give you some insight on what that process will look like. Lydia, I will turn it over to you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Lacey. Thanks for having me today. As Lacey noted, I want to talk to you a little bit about the evaluation. Part of when we developed this program was to develop an evaluation for the trainings and the producers as well. And so I want to give you a little bit of an overview and context of what you might expect, knowing that we've heard of different plans for the workshops that facilitators want to do, and I'll talk a little briefly about that at the end. This gives you a little bit of an overview of the evaluation for the trainings. You'll take part in two, as we have it put together now, you're going to take part in 2 out of 3 of these as a facilitator. At the beginning of the workshop, we have a pre-survey that goes out, and that one takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and that's paper for in-person or online for virtual. At the end of the training, we have a post-survey that takes about 5 to 10 minutes. And then about 6 months to 1 year after, a very, very brief survey for producers that goes up out via online from our group, from NYU. And that's, again, a very brief survey. Lacey, if you want to change the slide. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of the survey content that's going to be given to the producers that are taking part in the training. We ask about farm and farmer demographics on the pre-survey. This would include size, the products they produce, the years farming, those types of questions, just so that we can characterize their farm. On the pre-survey and the follow-up survey, so the survey we send up like 12 months later, we want to look at participation in farm to school activities. So that would be like their current participation in either direct or through intermediaries, participation in farm to school. And that's to look at the change from pre-survey to follow-up. On the pre and post survey, so those are the ones that are taken at the beginning of the workshop and at the end of the workshop, we're looking at self-reported knowledge of farm to school topics and interest in farm to schools. So this is really getting at what is the difference that might have occurred because of the workshop. And on the post survey, the one that's done right at the end of the workshop, again, we're just getting some feedback on the training, the most and least useful topics that they thought happened in the training, and the topics that they need more information on. So I'm just going to give you now a little bit background on the pre and the post survey and what you can expect from your slide deck and how the producers are going to take part in it. You can go ahead and change the slide. We have put together a very detailed protocol for both in-person and virtual training. So I'm just going to go over this. There's no like quiz at the end of this. So, but you will have a specific protocol that will help you run through all the things you need to do. You will see from the introduction slide deck, which are 2 slides, slide 3 and 4, they provide instructions for conducting the pre-survey at the beginning of your training. This is a screenshot of one of those slides. In regard to the pre-survey, if you're in person, the survey packet you'll be sharing with producers includes an informed consent form. So again, we're looking to get consent from farmers to take part in the survey. And that will be part of the packet that you get. For those running their workshops in person, we will be sending packets out to you for the evaluation. So we want to keep in touch with you so that we know when the trainings are happening so we can send you your packets. If you're virtual, the informed consent form will be one of the first pages they see when they open up the survey link, which you can see here is above, is for virtual trainings. Before they begin the survey, you'll want to instruct the producers to read the informed consent, and if they agree, to check the box for consent before they start the survey. Some key things that you want to let them know that about that is in the informed consent, but you know, the informed consent is really long. You want to remind them that their participation in the evaluation is voluntary and they have the right to withdraw at any time. And they don't have to provide a response for any surveys that they don't want to. For in-person surveys, when they're done, you're going to ask them to fold their surveys and bring it back up to you. We'll have a way for you to get the surveys back to us. For virtual workshops, they're going to submit their surveys online electronically. So there's nothing for you to do there. In terms of the post survey, which happens right at the end, you can go ahead and change the slide. That's found on the conclusion slide deck number 12. Again, the screenshot shown above. This is the point where you let them know, look, you took the pre-survey, now we're going to take a really short post-survey. If they're virtual, again, there's a link that is there for them to take the survey virtually. Again, you're going to want to remind them that the survey is voluntary and they don't have to answer any survey questions they don't want to. Just like the pre-survey, if they're in person, they're going to fold their surveys and bring them up to you. They'll go in a packet back to us. And if they're virtual, they'll submit their surveys online through SurveyMonkey. As I mentioned, I want to make sure that I know we're working through ways of keeping in touch with you so that, and we'll do that through Lacey and Tomas and Tammy, so that we can get your packets and answer the questions you have about your trainings and the evaluation components. We're going to be developing an FAQ that's going to go up on the training website that goes through different scenarios that you might be thinking about in terms of your trainings, whether they're going to be, whether you're going to do like one module only or different modules at different times. We're going to come up with instructions for how the survey should be done that way. We did a lot of this work at the very beginning of the project because we needed to go through OMB approval, which takes about a year. So, and this was prior to COVID. So a lot of the customization that's coming out of COVID, and we really don't have a chance for customizing our surveys, but we can customize the protocol and how they're done. Carolyn and I are available for any questions you might have on the evaluation, the results that come out of the evaluation. And I think that's it. You can turn to the next slide. I want to remind you, and I know I got my copy in an email. You're going to be getting a survey any minute for this workshop. We're also evaluating trainers by email. It comes from Carolyn. We hope you'll take part in the survey. We've been using the results of the survey. Tammy, Lacey, and Tomas used the results of the open-ended questions and some of the other parts to really change the trainings to make them better for future trainers. So we're hoping you might take a few moments to fill that out. And I'm here for any types of questions now. I'm happy to answer any questions either here or via email later. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lydia. And please feel free to add your questions to the chat box or unmute and speak up. And I'll just share that we are going to have some time for folks to complete that survey, your facilitator survey, a little bit later in the day. So we definitely want your feedback on that. But yes, if folks have questions about how we want to survey producers through this process, and again, just want to lift off that we are going to continue to be in touch with you to better understand how you're planning to implement this. And as Lydia said, kind of customize and make sure that you have the resources and information you need to implement these evaluation pieces that fit kind of the way you're implementing. And we are super grateful to Lydia and Carolyn for working with us on that flexibility. Yeah, so we'll just open up to questions for folks.
I had a quick question, and I apologize if this was covered, but if we were doing a training virtually and so using the online survey, would we be able to see the results from our specific training at some point?
Yeah, Jesse, thanks. Yeah, we will be making available to trainers who request them results of your survey. We're happy to download those and get you some summary results. So happy to do that.
Great, thank you.
And if you want a copy of the surveys, they are in the, I'm not sure where that is, Lacey, in the packet, but we have copies of the surveys if you want to look at specific questions and everything.
Yep, we can share those by request. They're not in what you have right now, but we can definitely share those if folks are interested in seeing them.
Not as much fun as the the virtual tour
site visits, yeah, but very important. Again, making all these things work together. And I'll just, to Jesse's point, I'll just say, the sooner and the more that we all communicate with one another, the more information you'll be able to get back. So please do keep us in the loop on your plans and how we can support kind of customization, so we can make sure that Carolyn and Lydia know that and that they can be ready to have that evaluation ready to share back to you too. So, all right. Well, if no additional questions, big thanks to Lydia for being here with us, and of course, all of her partnership throughout this whole process. And I think that I will turn it over to Tomas for our next segment. Thanks so much for being here, Lydia.
Okay, great. All right, let me just share my screen. Excellent. Are we all seeing this? Great. All right. Greetings all. My name is Tomas Delgado, Program Manager with National Farmers School Network, if you haven't already met me yet. And today we'll be actually talking about the Planning and Outreach Guide. So yeah, so we'll be just going through the motions of using the Planning and Outreach tools. This is the last presentation of the day and of the week, so you've made it to the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to be talking about promotion, some of the logistics of planning your training, and all of this was designed by our Communications Director at NFSN, Anna Mullen, along with support from National Center for Appropriate Technology. So just off the bat, just some context setting. Throughout this week, you've been learning about the training content. You've been meeting with your state teams, and hopefully you've been brainstorming how you might be able to put some of these tools and materials into practice. So this last session will serve as kind of the structure support that you'll use when event planning and outreach for the local producer trainings. All right, so we have about 45 minutes with this session, and the bulk of that time is going to be used actually in your state groups. And you'll meet with them one last time to start thinking about creating your local producer training. But before we do that, I'm going to introduce just the outreach guide. We're going to go into reviewing its key components, and then we're going to set you up with an activity to help guide you through the planning and outreach guides in your state teams. And then lastly, we'll just do a share back later on in the day once you've met with your state groups, so you'll be able to share some of your plannings and ideas for a local producer training with the main session. All right. So at this time, pull up your planning and outreach guide. You either have a hard copy or digital. If you have neither at this time, we're actually going to drop in the chat a link where you can access it digitally. And it should be arriving momentarily. And the intention of this tool is to provide you with a checklist for how to plan a training from start to finish, and to provide you with tools and templates to make that an easy lift. I want to make note that it also interacts. It's designed to interact with the facilitator guide quite a bit. So you should notice that these two tools work together. So you want to, when you're going through the logistical planning of your event, you'll want to have that facilitator guides handy. They were designed as to be a guide, and we recognize that you all are professionals, and that this may not be your first rodeo in planning a producer event. So we tried to build this guide to be more of a roadmap for you. It's not designed to replace you, but rather to really just help you get your work done faster. We tried to integrate some of the sort of education theory here, and we wanted to give you the setting and some tools, not the answers. So everything here should be considered fair play to adapt however you see fit. So kind of think of this as a choose your own adventure format, and take from it from what you need, and set aside what you don't. All right, so the power of the checklist. The core of this guide is a giant checklist, essentially. We've designed it to give flow to any planning processes that you might have, and you can literally start at the beginning and work your way straight to the end to have a successful training. The checklist, however, does not know the specifics and details of your specific local producer training. So you'll need to read through it entirely and make decisions and adjust it to your local situation. So the tool itself needs your localization to work best. The next point is, please don't take what is presented here as gospel. You'll need to just keep note that we keep using the word guide in this, but you are the experts here of your area. You're the experts of your own communities. And then lastly, be sure to notice that a few things worth pointing out. We created an online version of this document that is fully hyperlinked. For this tool, the digital version may work better than the hard copy because it's meant to be interactive in that way. You'll see if you access that link, the purple links that are there will take you quickly to the digital version of this document. The blue hyperlinks will send you to editable versions of the templates, and at the bottom, every template, a blue hyperlink will send you straight to a downloadable, editable Microsoft Office document that you can customize to fit your own needs. All right, so yeah, so let's get started with the main focus of this session. In a few minutes, you'll break out into your state teams and actually start planning the local producer trainings. Once you're in your state teams, we want you to first just take a few quick moments to familiarize yourself with the checklist starting on page 3. You can scan the whole thing, give it a once over, and maybe start utilizing some of the information that's found there. And then the second step would be to start thinking about how you can make it work for you in your own local producer training. Specifically focus on the timeline and the flow. You know, does it match with your capacity? Review review the templates that are there. Does it fit your needs? And then start thinking about ways in which you can start customizing the tools. You know, what needs to be changed around the timeline? Where can you fill gaps in, or where can you take parts out? So yeah, just keep in mind on all those things. And you know, the essential question for the activity is, how does the guide match up or mesh to ways you've already conducted this type of work within your own communities? All right. So in your breakout sessions with your state teams, you'll want to come up with answers to 5 questions that we're going to be sharing with the group. So be sure to appoint a note taker or someone just to record answers for you. And later on, we'll be reporting back on those answers. The questions are listed in your Jamboards, but we'll also share them in the chat here. No need to memorize them, so you can always go back to them. And full acknowledgement, you've been working on a lot of these questions, you know, per se, for the last 3 days. So if you need to go back to previous Jamboards to reference and get answers to these questions, go ahead and do that. Alternatively, if you're feeling ahead of the game, feel free to check out page 5 in sending the outreach toolkit. But yeah, so the questions, you know, why are you doing this training? What needs to be on your plan, or who needs to be on your planning team? You know, where and when is your training, and who is your producer audience? And then lastly, what media outlets will carry the message? So just so we're on the same page, we're going to go into our state groups. When we return, we will work through the evaluations that Lydia actually should have sent us at this point. And then after that, we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll then come back, and then at that point, we'll actually share all of the answer to those questions, as well as any other information that you want to share with the main group. So, and any questions at this point? All right, then. Well, if there's no questions, we can go ahead and get started in breaking out in our sessions. Carlos, if you want to start that process, that'd be great. All righty, welcome back. So let's take the next few moments to go breakout group by breakout group, and just share back some of the answers that you had, of the questions that were shared, as well as any other information around the planning of your local producer training, or also just, you know, take this time and opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. This is our last sort of segment of the week, so while you have us, feel free to ask any questions, or, you know, just share any thoughts that you have. So what I'm going to do is we can start with the state group Arkansas. So if there's someone from Arkansas who would like to just share the answers to those questions, and anything else that you'd like.
Sure, I can share for us. I'm Sarah Lane. Let's see here. why are we doing this training? Well, we did a meet the grower, meet the buyer training back in March, and it was really successful, but we actually realized that our hardest group to outreach to is farmers compared to schools. So I think a big barrier I had thought was that maybe schools were less interested in buying local. And I think what I'm realizing is that schools need help finding more farmers that can sell local to them. So I think that this will be a great training because it's farmer focused and will help increase the number of farmers that are wanting to sell to schools. Our planning team, us at the Arkansas Department of Agriculture, NCAT, we really want to work with the University of Arkansas Extension, also Arkansas Farm Bureau, and we have a lot of other partners that we want to reach out to because we think that really high engagement from them at the beginning is going to help set us up for success, and that taking more time to relationship build with them will lead to longevity in this type of training. We're thinking Northwest Arkansas or like Northeast Oklahoma. We want to collaborate with Sherry Long and maybe do a joint training. When? Good question. Stay tuned. We will figure that out. And then audience, probably specialty crop and meat, probably a combo. We see fruits and vegetables and meat as the main touch points in our state. And media outlets, I mean, we're good at that at our state department. So we'll do press releases, newsletters, work with the media, do pitches. And if we have really strong partners who work directly with farmers, I think that direct farmer outreach, phone calls and emails will be the best benefit for us to bring them to the table. All right, I hope those were the questions and that's what you wanted.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, moving on to Oklahoma.
I don't think Sherry's here today.
Okay, no worries. We can skip to Arizona. Anyone from Arizona like to share?
I can go ahead and jump in. I guess for the first question of why we're doing the training, we just kind of kept it broad that we would really like to see farm to school programming in Arizona expanded. And we just see that there's a high need for, as others have mentioned, really engaging producers and connecting them with schools. There's definitely interest on the school level, but making those connections will be really essential, and actually educating producers on how to profit from that partnership. For number 2, who needs to be on the planning team? I think this list is growing, but definitely, our Department of Education, who has access to school contacts, that child nutrition program knowledge, as well as just school procurement in general. We are going to continue to engage agencies like our Department of Health Services and Public Health and associated extension offices. Who else on our JAM board? We talked about we have a Arizona Farm to School network that is growing. So we really wanted to leverage what we call a procurement work group, and essentially use that as a space to kind of draw together anyone that wants to support planning this type of training. And then we had a lot of discussion around engaging City of Phoenix, who has secured some funding to improve the resilience of our food system. So capitalizing on money that was provided through the CARE Act. And the list could go on, but essentially just continuing to get everyone in the same room. Number 3, where and when. We also had a lot of discussion about where to have the training. We, kind of along the lines of engaging City of Phoenix to capitalize on that funding. We also want to make sure that obviously the training is inclusive and reaches producers all over the state, and recognizing that they have unique needs. So we talked about, the possibility of doing a hybrid training, if we did, when we do one in person, where is it going to be most advantageous to hold it? We need to offer travel scholarships. We need to consider, Wi-Fi connections. So we didn't necessarily decide, but we had a lot of really important comments come up in terms of how to best reach producers from all over the state. In terms of our producer audience, again, we're talking about a lot of partnerships. Our Department of Public Health is working on a farmer database, which is really going to inform where our producers are and what type of producers we are, or they are. We identified that there's kind of a gap in our understanding of the groups that are interested. So we talked about really focusing on assessing the producers at large that are interested, and from there, kind of teasing out what groups they represent and how we can tailor the training from there. And obviously engaging our Department of Agriculture as well. And for the last question, media outlets, again, those same partners that would be a part of the training team. We have an organization called Local First Arizona that's focused on strengthening the local economy. So using their media channels to get the word out. Again, Department of Agriculture, just kind of those same partners that keep coming up again and again for all the right reasons. So I think that answers everything. If there's anyone from Arizona that wants to chime in on anything that I missed, feel free.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, is there anyone from Louisiana that's up for sharing?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everybody. So questions, why are we doing the training? Prepare producers to successfully sell to schools, connect producers to schools. We actually had several events, meet the buyer events, actually at our Louisiana Farm to School conference. So, to train the producers more has always been one of our goals. Who needs to be on our planning team? We, for our farm to school work, we actually have quite a good representation from around the state. Department of Ed is where we get our funding from. Also work with Department of Agriculture. Both land grant universities were within one of the land grant universities in extension. We have our own team, and we have farmers and school nutrition directors. So I think we have a pretty good team with that. We probably will be doing our training in the spring. I don't know yet. I missed the first part of the meeting. I don't know if you saw that we actually had just received a notice for funding to do the training this morning. So that's kind of a fortuitous event. So we have the funding. Our producer audience, we normally focus mainly on fruits and vegetables. Also, we've been reaching out to rice and some of the protein growers, and a lot of the focus is small to medium scale producers. We also are involved with, we have a beginning farmer training program. The Department of Ag Econ has another financial and horticulture training program for sustainable farmer. So we'll kind of be reaching out, working with them. What media outlets, a lot of networking events, other farmer meetings and trainings, like I mentioned. And we actively use Facebook. The LSU Ag Center has a Facebook page. They promote a lot of our work. Farm to School page, the Louisiana SARE, Market Maker, Facebook pages, press releases, and then we have a good list of potential participants from around the state. So I think I covered most of that, unless somebody has any questions.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Texas, anyone from Texas like to speak up?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone. Let me turn on my video. Hi. So for these questions, why are you doing this training? Not too different than what everyone else said, but really to support our Texas producers in a very tangible way, and also increasing Texas products in school meals. So it's a no-brainer for us. I work at the Department of Agriculture, but in the food and nutrition division. So working with those school meal programs. And who needs to be on your planning team? Extension offices, the Education Service Center staff, producer associations, of course, Texas Department of Agriculture staff, and NCAT. Where and when is your training? Where we love to do regional in-person trainings. And I would also like to eventually offer it in a virtual setting once everybody gets over their Zoom fatigue, just so we can really reach all of the corners of Texas because it's a large state. When, still don't know exactly, but definitely looking at next year and then continuing to offer it after that. Who is our producer audience? So, you know, the regional producers in those regional trainings, really all producers here in Texas, in my mind, will be invited, but obviously extending the invitation to the members of our Farm Fresh initiative. And then what media outlets? I don't know which specific media outlets, but, you know, we have our kind of standard promotion on our end. We'll do a TDA press release. We have a radio show called Ag Matters we could promote it on. We do a lot of social media promotion, and then regional promotion. And Robert said he has connections at NRCS through their public affairs specialists to have another arm of promotion. So lots of different ways to get that messaging out there. And also just wanted to thank you all for organizing this training. I've been so impressed with the materials, and it's just really well organized, and I'm excited to dig in more and start adapting the training for all the different formats we want to offer it in. So.
Great, thank you for that. So on this last day, we were actually able to put together a cohort of tribal attendees to focus on, you know, how farm to school can be implemented within Indian country within this region. So I was able to connect with that group, and we took note of answers to the questions that were posed. And if those folks who are in the group, if you don't mind, I can share the answers. If not, you all can maybe do it. But I think at this point I'm the only one with the notes, so I can just go ahead and go through it. So we didn't explicitly answer number one, but what was shared was that, like many others, farm to school is important because it is supporting producers, it's supporting children, but I think specifically within Indian country, you're really offering culturally significant foods and education to youth within these schools. So there's sort of that added special component to it that's really important. For question two, sort of who needs to be on the planning team, the group had identified that school superintendents absolutely need to be a part of this, livestock association presidents, and then agriculture educators who are doing some of the sort of culturally agricultural specific education in classrooms, that they should also be involved in this. And there were recommendations of maybe introducing you know, things to be centered around Native American Week within these schools, and the introduction of, you know, certain sort of livestock processing, you know, sheep or cattle butchering and things like that that could occur sort of in an educational component for youth at these schools. For question three, where and when, there were a few recommendations. One, the IAC Southwest Regional Conference, the annual livestock meeting / conference within that area. And then lastly, the Native American Nutrition Conference are all possible places where you know, outreach can be conducted, or some training to some degrees can be conducted, or really just getting the word out around sort of an effort or a call to talk about farm to school in Indian country. For number 4, who's the producer audience? Beef and livestock producers were mentioned, but also various grain producers would be another viable audience member. And then lastly, question 5, media outlets, general social media outlets through various organizations. School district channels would be another potential option. General printed media, newspapers is still very much used and utilized. And then Native American agricultural organizations like the IAC or any other, likewise group that could help disseminate outreach or just general information. So yeah, we're really happy that we were able to get that cohort together on this day. But at this point, now that everyone's shared, does anyone have any questions for any other states or any of the presenters, or any thoughts or ideas that you want to share at this point?
I have a question. For states that have engaged growers and producers in areas that are more rural and may not have, strong internet connection, I'm curious about how you've reached producers essentially for types of trainings and get-togethers if they live far from kind of central offices.
Yeah, it's a great question. Any of the folks in the audience want to chime in with an answer or recommendations on that?
Well, I think the most likely candidate, in my opinion, is to engage the extension folks in each county.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say our local extension office has been crucial in connecting with those producers. And I've also heard like print ads in rural newspapers or on like the radio is another kind of media outlet.
And just to add, the extension offices, I know we have utilized extension offices as a place to connect to webinars or virtual things. So, a group might be able to meet there and, connect to a webinar at that central place that's in their county anyways, if they don't have connectivity at home.
Those are great suggestions. Thank you.
And also for reaching farmers, like feed stores and, farm supply stores, like putting flyers and information there is another good way, especially in the more rural places where they're not necessarily connected.
Any other questions or thoughts you'd like to share? All right, folks. Well, we're at the end. So to wrap up our workshop for the week, if you haven't done so already, we just wanted to encourage you to finish the evaluations that were sent out. And additionally, just know that, NCAT and NFSN are here to help and support you in producing these producer trainings. So feel free to call on us for recommendations or review of logistical plans or things like that sort. And then to expound on technical assistance, we mentioned that our team is here to help. we've developed this menu here as a technical assistance sort of option list for you when you're starting to organize your own producer trainings. We'll be sending out reminders, including technical assistance forums within the next month. But feel free to reach out for any other calls or interest in resource sharing. We're also hoping to share any kind of successes or plans for local producer trainings that are happening within your region with states on the call right now. So you can keep sort of updated on what other states are doing as well. But yeah, let us know what you're thinking and how you are approaching implementing your own trainings. Stay tuned for the additional materials that will be sent out in the summer, and then yeah, just keep us updated as best you can, and we'll be keeping you all updated as best we can. On that note, we'd like to thank our partners at the USDA, all of our guest speakers, the project team members, as well as our evaluators at New York University. And most importantly, we'd like to thank you all for spending a whole week with us and going through all of this material. It was a lot, and we just want to acknowledge that we really appreciate the time that you took to share with us. So at this point, we're going to, we can open the breakout sessions back up if any of you are eager to stay with your state teams at this point to continue planning or brainstorming. So you have the option to join those groups. So Carlos, if you're able to invite folks to their breakout sessions, they can do that. But the time is optional. We just want to provide you with some added time to think out and brainstorm with your groups. But thank you so much for your time, and yeah, best of luck to you in bringing farm to school.